This is the last social science thinking presentation that we are going to do in this course. And in many ways, it's a recap of things that we've talked about before. In fact, immediately we will recap the whole course in one very quick slide here. Where have we been? Well, we've talked about geography and how it's a social science and how the various things that we've looked at in this course are important to geographers and can be well understood through the social sciences. And then we talked a great deal about empiricism and how the ability to systematically observe the world really develops this scientific language that can be shared and that can help us to understand and hopefully solve problems as well. We've talked about different types of data. We've talked about how empiricism can help us to understand relationships and ultimately to build theories. And we've talked about a lot of theories over the course of the semester, including theories that geographers regularly use to understand the world. More recently, we talked a little bit about the importance of empiricism in public policy. And in some ways, this is really a continuation of that lecture. We did take a little bit of a respite the last time to talk about the limits of empiricism. But really the reason we are doing all of this is to understand, in my opinion, how the social sciences fit into our civic life. So the reason why we're all doing all of this is, first off, because social science can make a contribution to society, and understanding its possibilities as well as its limits is important in and of itself as a subject of study. But, as I have implied many times before, there's a much broader context that makes this even more important. And that broader context is, and the reason why you are taking the GERs, in my opinion, is because we are all members of a liberal democracy. And of course, a liberal democracy means a free democracy, a place where we have rights and freedoms that we all enjoy. But with those rights and freedoms come very important responsibilities, not the least of which is our responsibility to vote. And the argument goes that in a liberal democracy, you have to have voters who are educated and who make prudent decisions. And understanding science, arts, and the letters helps to frame that competency so that we can make good choices as voters, both prudent and educated. Because ultimately we're going to be voting for people, and one of the things that we should be striving to do is voting for people who are going to understand what science is and use it to weigh important decisions that they are going to make. In addition, we need to be making sure that when we vote, the voting we do helps to ensure that we remain free, and that of course we're electing people who are going to support the freedoms that we all enjoy. If we just briefly look around the world that we've been talking about all semester long, you can see that a lot of countries around the world aren't free. So this map comes from an organization called Freedom House that rates all the countries around the world on their basic freedoms, looking at things like freedom of speech, religion, freedom of the press, and then rates every country. And you can see that while there are a lot of countries out there that are green, which means that they are rated as free countries, there are a lot of countries that are only partly free or not free at all. And one of the things I think is very valuable to all of us, and I'm guessing it is to you as well, to understand that we need to keep our country and other countries in the green, and we need to ensure that other countries around the world enjoy those same freedoms as well. And voting responsibly and intelligently is one way that that happens. In this course, I extended that argument even a little bit more because what we were talking about so often was how to make the world a better place. In other words, how we can use certain development strategies to try to improve the quality of life of others. And an argument that I made there was that we should be using empiricism in science not only to inform our own decisions as citizens, but also when we are making decisions about evaluating international and charitable work. So for sort of a final reflection in social science thinking, I'd like you to think a little bit about whether or not this course has in fact encouraged you to think about the role that social science can play in a democracy. How important is empiricism, and how does empiricism relate to that exercise that we have to make as free citizens and voters in a liberal democracy? Is, in fact, empiricism and are the social sciences important in a liberal democracy? And what role should we be playing as citizens in development as well? And then finally, and this is a little bit more of a practical thing, what specific skills might you have developed in social science thinking that will help you to ultimately apply many of these lessons that we've learned about? So these are just some things to think about. I hope you've enjoyed the social science portion of the course. It's a little bit drier and something that doesn't show up in many of the social science courses, but I believe this is extremely important information, and I hope that you have appreciated that.